Hi there, my name's Brent Hillier, and along with my family, I live in the city of North Vancouver. What I want to do with this video is just kind of show what happens up on Mount Seymour in the wintertime. I want to give a little bit of backstory about the newly announced Seymour Pass program that's going to come into effect on December 15th, Wednesday. Right now it's Friday, so that's coming in a few days. Just a little bit of a backstory on me. I recreate all year up on Mount Seymour, whether that's lower down on the mountain bike trails or hiking or up top hiking in the summer. And I also spend a lot of time ski touring up there. Professionally, I'm an outdoor educator, so I also work up on Mount Seymour teaching avalanche courses in the winter. I will teach mountain bike lessons down on the trails lower down as well. I also chair the transportation committee for the city of North Vancouver. And I also work part-time as a trail builder over on Mount Frome. I spend a little bit of time over on Seymour. I do work on the Bottle Top Trail on Mount Seymour, but I also work on the Griffin Trails over on Frome. So I've kind of got a bit of a diverse resume as far as what happens here on the North Shore and in the mountains. And just to kind of give you a little bit of backstory about the Seymour Pass program, if you're unfamiliar with it, on Wednesday, so just 2 days ago, they announced that this winter, in order to gain access to the parking lot on Mount Seymour, the backcountry parking lot, you need a Seymour Pass. You can get this pass at 7 a.m. Up to 2 days ahead of time. The pass is free, which is great. But the pass only allows you to be up there for a very short period of time. So between either 7 a.m. to noon, or you can get an afternoon pass, which would allow you to be up there from noon and then till 4. After 4, you don't require a pass. So in theory, that afternoon pass would be would be from noon to whatever time. They do start to kind of shut down the parking lot up there at 10 p.m., the ski resort. And there is overnight parking up there as well. Limited amounts of overnight parking, but there is overnight parking as well. A couple things that weren't really mentioned, or one big thing that wasn't really mentioned in the Seymour Pass program is what it'll mean for overnight parking and those users that are going up for overnight. The other thing that it really doesn't address, and really my number one kind of pain point with the Seymour Pass program, I don't necessarily have a problem with a pass program. I don't even necessarily have a problem with a paid pass program, although I know a lot of people would. I do get that our parks require funding. I would prefer that the parks remain free. I know other provinces have put a lot more pay fees into them. But if we're not getting the funding from our local, from our provincial government, then we clearly need funding in a different way. And if paying for passes is the way to do that, then that might be the solution there. The biggest pain point, though, that I have with this pass program is that the limited amount of time that you can be up there. Essentially, you can only really be up on the mountain for about 4 hours. By the time you get through the gate at the bottom, which opens at 7 a.m., you get up to the top, that's going to be 7:30. You kind of have to make your way and be at your vehicle at noon. I'm not sure what would happen if you were to stay longer than noon, if you could get towed, or how that's going to work. But anybody that's been backcountry skiing, backcountry snowshoeing before knows that you generally can go for a lot longer than just 4 hours. So as much as this pass program is targeting kind of those snowshoers that are going to Dog Mountain and those small trips, it really affects those of us that spend a lot of time up there and go for quite large ski touring trips. How the permit or how the pass program is working is it's based per vehicle, and you can have up to 8 people in your vehicle. I really like that encourages carpooling. I think that's a really good thing. And I think carpooling is a solution to what is really a parking problem up on Mount Seymour. There's plenty of space on Mount Seymour for people to recreate up there. It's a massive provincial park. I think encouraging carpooling is a great option. There is a shuttle bus that the Mount Seymour Ski Resort provides and operates I think, trying to provide solutions, BC Parks perhaps should be offering a shuttle bus as well. And then with the pass program encouraging carpooling, I think that's great. There is some issues with that, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on in this video. And I'm going to show all the areas in which parking is an option for carpooling. And we'll kind of see that as much as encouraging people to carpool is a great sentiment, in application, there hasn't been any facilities really created for people to actually carpool on the North Shore, which is a bit of a challenge. A little bit earlier this morning, I made sure to get up to the bottom of the road at 7 a.m. That's when the gate opens. And so here's kind of just a video of me driving through the gate, and you can kind of see what the bottom of that road usually looks like. All right, so it's 6:55 and just heading down the Mount Seymour Parkway. The gate should be open at the bottom of the mountain at 7 a.m. It's not raining down here. It's not snowing up on Mount Seymour. I checked the webcam when I woke up this morning. So in theory, that gate should be open in 5 minutes. Okay, so we're just coming up to Parkgate Community Center, the shopping center, community center, library is just up here. We're gonna hang a left here onto Mount Seymour Road. Now, some busy Saturdays, you'll actually get the traffic stretching all the way out onto Mount Seymour Parkway when they don't open the gate. So it can kind of create a bit of a traffic jam actually out here on the parkway. So now we're turning left onto the Mount Seymour Road, and we're just going to kind of keep driving ahead. It is Friday today. So I'm not expecting any traffic here if the gate is still closed. That's usually just a problem that happens on the weekend. Often it's quite quiet on weekdays. And it is 7:01. So that gate should be open. And let's see, I think we should be fine because it's not a weather day, so they're not plowing the parking lot. Sometimes it takes them extra long to plow the parking lot. There's even been days where this gate hasn't been open until 10 a.m. They kind of get caught by surprise. And it looks like the gate's open. So here we go. Okay, so now that we have daylight, we're gonna go back up the road, and that way I can show you kind of all the various spots along the way, and where the backcountry parking is at the top. So the very first thing we're going to get to is where the Baden-Powell crosses the Mount Seymour Road. There's a little parking lot right here off to the right, and there's probably enough parking spaces there for about 8 cars kind of maximum. But in kind of those peak days, Saturdays and Sundays, you will get cars kind of parking a little bit illegally, and there are now signs that say tow-away zone, as well as a sign just back there that says no parking. They put rocks along the side here just because people are, once you kind of fill up these parking spaces, you get people parking kind of all these other spots. And now we're coming up to the first switchback. And so these parking restrictions, or the Seymour Pass program, was announced on Wednesday. What was really interesting is on Monday, they actually paved this corner right here. And this has always been where the checkpoint is to check to see if people are going up to the ski resort or if they're going into the backcountry. So they've paved all this out, which is definitely in preparation for the Seymour Pass program. I think it's really interesting that this was announced on Wednesday, and yet they were kind of putting pavement down on Monday to prepare for this to happen. So clearly all of this was kind of in motion by Monday, that they could hire people to actually do some work and pave out that corner. Now, as we come around to the second switchback, just on the right here is what's known as the mushroom parking lot. And this is most commonly used for mountain bikers. You could probably fit about 20 cars in there legally. And all of the trails will go down from there. You can see the trailhead right there on the left. Any bike trails that are above here are either illegal, or there's the CBC trail. The CBC trail is the only legal mountain bike trail that's beyond this point, and in the winter it's closed. So really that's the last stop for mountain bikers. What's really disappointing is that the checkpoint that's on that road on the first switchback is below. So you have a user group that has really no kind of skin in the game as far as the upper parking lot, but in the winter they're blocked and they can't access the parking lot that they would like to use. So it's kind of unfortunate. So what ends up happening there is you end up getting a distribution of those users into other areas, which creates congestion lower down on the mountain. And coming up here on the fifth switchback, this is what's known as P1 or parking lot 1. And we'll just kind of turn into here. There's some porta potties right over there, and this is also the location of the ooh, it's icy in here. This is also the location of the overnight parking. So if you're going to do any winter camping, this is where you need to park. There's about I'd say 8 spaces from here to right there that needed for overnight parking, and this is where this will get full as you get, wow, it's really icy here. This will get full on a Saturday and Sunday. So now we'll get back on the road, make sure there's nobody coming here. It's a little bit of a blind corner. Good. So now coming up here on the road, this is the very bottom of what's known as lower P5 or lower parking lot 5. So on the left side of the road here, all this starts to become parking for backcountry users, and depending on the day, it's either parallel parking or it's diagonal parking. They always ask people to pull in forwards, which I find to be quite dangerous, because then you have to back up into traffic. So I actually don't adhere to those guidelines, and I always back into these spots just because I feel like it's safer. But all the way up here is the backcountry lot. And then it transitions into upper P5, and it's a little confusing, but lower P5 is for backcountry users, and upper P5 is for Seymour Resort users. And the boundary is kind of right around here. Just on the right hand side, you see these vehicles, the loader and everything. This is kind of the resort's works yard, and that's kind of the boundary right here between lower P5 and upper P5. But the line in actuality becomes really fluid, and they'll move it kind of up and down here. So some days, if the resort isn't expecting to be terribly busy, they will actually allow backcountry users to park all the way up here in upper P5. And then now we're going to get into the actual controlled recreation areas parking lot. And so this is like P1 and P2 and P3, and I think we just passed P4 back there. And this is where all of the guests of the resort park. So if you're paying for a lift pass or you're paying for their snowshoe trails, then this is where everybody would park. It's really nice that it's snowing up here, which is great. So I'll just kind of drive to the end of the parking lot just so you can kind of see where the trailhead is. And right there at the very far end of the parking lot is the BC Parks kiosk. And so this is the start of the Mount Seymour Trail, and just to the left along the trail is the Dog Mountain Trail. Once there's more snow, all along here, just to the right of me, you can see people straight ahead of me ski touring. They're ski touring on what the resort calls West Bank. And West Bank is groomed out, and there's an access point so that people can get from the backcountry parking lot all the way up to that trailhead. Now, it's not always groomed out when the parking lot's actually open, so at 7 a.m. And it can be tough. I mean, when it snows up here, it's always challenging. That's just part of winter and operating these places. Snow always gets in the way. But right now you can see they're just kind of piling snow there, and eventually they're going to groom it all out for people to be able to easily get from the backcountry parking lots up to the trailhead. And that is a requirement of BC Parks. Mount Seymour does have to provide a corridor from the backcountry parking lots up to the resort. And something new that they did, which I think was new last year, is they actually added a new winter trail just down to the right here. so you could actually skip that. So there was a new access corridor. That was really good. I was really glad to see that. I would like to see that trail continued all the way down to P1. As you're coming up the bottom of Mount Seymour Road, just on the right-hand side is this yellow gate. And behind this yellow gate is where the regional office for BC Parks is located. And there's actually another parking lot over here. Now, this gate used to remain closed the last few years. So even though the parking over there is quite small and there is a parking issue down here, BC Parks kept this gate closed up until about this year. The parking's just kind of down the road over there. So finally they're keeping this gate open, which provides some additional parking down here, which is great. When I came up here though at 7 a.m., this gate was closed. So it wasn't open at the time that people would be coming up to take advantage of that morning slot of the Seymour Pass at 7 a.m. We're gonna head down the road here a little bit, and I'm gonna show you an attempt at BC Parks creating additional parking, and we'll talk about why it kind of failed and what happened there. It's in a state of limbo at this point. So this is the turnoff to Indian River Road right here. So Mount Seymour, Indian River Road. And there's kind of this random little plot of land. This is actually owned by BC Parks. It is BC Parks land. And about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, they decided they were gonna expand and put a parking lot in here. And so what they did was they started kind of knocking down some of these big trees that are over here. You can see they've got concrete blocks parked over here, kind of ready, and it actually stretches a good distance down there. Now this is BC Parks land, but of course what ended up happening was the residents over behind me here got upset that all these trees were getting knocked down. And so what ended up happening, BC Parks then kind of halted that plan, and now it's in kind of this state of limbo. So we have a great piece of land that could be utilized as a parking lot. Obviously, residents are not happy about that, but what we end up getting is this. And I'm not really sure what good this does anybody, because it doesn't really help the residents because it's pretty ugly, and it doesn't help the recreationists that are trying to use Mount Seymour Provincial Park. Okay, we're gonna go just kind of tour around, and I'm gonna show you all the other kind of common spots that people use as kind of impromptu carpool lots. So the first carpooling area is the Old Buck parking lot. And as you can see, it's a relatively small parking lot. We're here on Friday. It's only 11 o'clock and it's already got quite a bit of cars in there. There is lots of street parking over here, which is really helpful. So you can get a few cars in here, but this area is pretty popular with dog walkers and mountain bikers and hikers. And then as you kind of go down along this road, we start to get into residential parking. And we'll get into that a little bit later on, but anytime that you have recreationists kind of parking in residential areas, it usually creates kind of a bit of a pain point for a lot of the residents in those areas. So I'm just parked on Banff Court, and just out my window right here is the Parkgate Community Centre, as well as the Parkgate branch of the District of North Vancouver Library. On the other side of that is the Parkgate Shopping Centre. And so that parking lot, as well as the shopping center parking lot, were actually pretty commonly used for years. They were either used for mountain bikers in the summer. You just kind of see the bike racks everywhere. And then in the winter, used by a lot of skiers and snowboarders who would either take the shuttle bus, and the shuttle bus actually picks up and drops off right there. And then what kind of happened was they started ticketing and towing cars that were parked in there. So you can still park here on Banff Court. This is probably, if you're taking the shuttle bus, the best place to park. If you can't get a parking space here on Banff Court, then there's Parkgate Park, which I'm going to show you here in a moment. Okay, so this is Parkgate Park. And there's a lot of parking on the street, as well as a ton of parking in the parking lot here. Doesn't happen all the time, but if there is snow down this low, the District of North Vancouver, instead of plowing this lot, will actually keep these gates shut, unfortunately. So that can really create some challenges, and it really starts to limit the amount of parking that's down here. And then if you're parking over here, what's great is you can get right over to where the Seymour shuttle is by just kind of walking down this road over here. And just right over here is a trail. You can see where that person with the pink umbrella is going down. There's a trail right there. You just hang a left and it takes you right to the community center, and then you're able to jump onto the shuttle bus, which is nice. So those are all of the kind of the main carpool locations that people use in the wintertime if they're either taking the shuttle bus or they're carpooling with friends. So when it comes to trails, they're both literally and figuratively connected. And so one of the great things about the North Shore is that even in the winter, you don't have to do winter activities. You can go biking, you can go hiking. There's all these things that you can do. The snow is just at the top of the mountain. And so what happens sometimes lower down in the mountain will have an effect on what happens up top. And so this is a great example. This is Quarry Rock. And right at the very beginning of COVID, Quarry Rock was shut down back in 2020. It still hasn't been opened. It's been like this entire time. This is a real pain point for residents up here because it brings large amounts of crowds. It's a very popular hike. But when you shut something down, the people that are going to go hiking on that trail don't just stay home. They go somewhere else. And so all this does is it creates a displacement. And that displacement could be people going up to Mount Seymour to go up in the snow. It could be people going over to Blue Ridge, which we're going to go to next, and we'll kind of show you what's happening over there. It could be a little bit further. It could be down on Riverside Drive, which doesn't have any parking for the public. It's resident only. And so it's really important to kind of recognize that, we've got a land manager here, which is the District of North Vancouver, making decisions, and those decisions are affecting other land managers like BC Parks or CMHC or even Metro Vancouver. There's 4 land managers on Mount Seymour, and they don't necessarily all talk to each other. They don't all make decisions as one single unit. Okay, so now we're up in Blue Ridge and we're at Hyannis Drive. And this is a common access point for people using some of the lower Seymour trails kind of on the west side of Mount Seymour. And this gets really busy, and it gets especially busy in the summer as well. You can see local traffic only signs. There's a lot more resident only parking spots. And kind of one of the things, or why this has gotten so much more popular, certainly people are looking to get outside more and more these days. There's more mountain bikers out here. But with that displacement of people from Deep Cove who can't go to Quarry Rock, it's not like those people just stay home. They just go somewhere else to recreate. And so this is kind of that connectivity or that economy that is trails. Somebody can't go somewhere, they end up going somewhere else. Some of the residents are upset that there's all these people over here. Other residents aren't. In fact, this house right here is a great example. The kids who live here actually set up a bike wash station in the summer, and it's really kind of cool to see it being utilized, and just great to see the kids kind of taking on that role. So this is kind of the deal when we shut down trails is we don't just get users to stay home. They go somewhere else. And so we need to allow opportunities for either these people to go somewhere else, or we need to stop closing trails. It's really just kind of this moving the problem to somebody else. And unfortunately, when you have a mountain that is littered with various different land managers, some of these land managers just pass the buck onto the other land managers. And that's kind of what's happening with BC Parks, is some of the decisions made by the District of North Vancouver or Metro Vancouver or the CMHC can affect BC Parks or vice versa. And so there needs to be more of a collective working together in order for us to have what we need, which is access to our trails. So kind of to conclude, there's a couple things. Number one, there was really no public consultation in the rollout of this pass program. Number two, the pass program just isn't functional in the sense that it limits the amount of time that people can be up there. You can no longer go to Mount Seymour in the backcountry for an entire day. It also ignores overnight users. Number three, the other thing that it ignores is groups. Public school programs, for example, how would they be able to gain access to use the facilities up there? Because they're not allowed to park in the ski resort parking lot, but they're also now not allowed to park in the backcountry parking lot. This whole program gets rolled out, and there's a lack of information about how it affects everybody that's up there. And then I think, finally, we have a problem. I'm not denying that. There's a crowding issue within our parking lots. There's not a crowding issue in our parks. Although you will see areas that get quite busy, if you just go a little bit further, you can get away from the crowds. It's no problem. What we have is an issue of education, not getting enough outreach to people. The biggest thing, we have a funding problem. That's the biggest problem. This is not BC Park's fault. This is the government's fault. We have a history of cuts to BC Parks, no budget increases for a very long time, and then the BC NDP increased the budget of BC Parks. And it was such a minimal amount of money, though. I think it was like $92 million. Sorry, I can't forget the exact amount. And that sounds like a lot of money, but it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. The park system is massive. This pass program just displaces the problem somewhere else. If it solves the problem on Seymour, great. It's going to create a problem over on Cypress. And so, we need to do something else. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is increase the funding to BC Parks. And we have a provincial government that says that they are for old growth forests. We have a provincial government that says that they are for parks, and yet they don't put their money where their mouth is. So I challenge John Horgan, Bowen Ma, Susie Chant, do something. Do something that actually works. Provide solutions. Don't just close things. Don't just restrict access. The people want their parks. Make sure that the people can have their parks, because at the end of the day, this is a real resource that we all need access to, especially in a COVID world. We want to get outdoors. I am not alone in wanting to get outdoors. This is why we find ourselves in this situation. Let's come up with solutions to allow people to do that. And let's make sure that those solutions make sense for the people that are getting out there. What I'm going to be doing on Wednesday, December 15th, is I'm going to be at the bottom of Mount Seymour Road, and I'm going to be just kind of there for the whole day protesting the pass system. It's an opportunity for people to come by, chat, have a conversation about what's going on. I want feedback from people. I've gathered a lot of information over the years. I might not have all my facts straight, so please, I'm not afraid of being corrected on some of this stuff, and I'm not afraid to change my opinion either. I would love to see Bowen Ma and Susie Chant at some point over there. I'd love to talk to the people at BC Parks. I'm going to make my way over to the bottom of Mount Seymour Road at 6:30 a.m., December 15th. That's the Wednesday, just a few days from now. And I plan to be there the whole day. I am not blocking access to the road. I'm not restricting the public from getting up the road by any means. I will be standing in front of the gate to the BC Parks regional office. And I will be blocking access to the BC Parks office because I need to talk to somebody. I'm not alone in this. Others are going to be joining me. And if you're interested in joining, send me an email, text me, message me, comment, whatever it is. Just get a hold of me and let's chat. It would be great to see you throughout the day. And let's try to fix this. There are solutions out there. I believe it. We can fix this. We can make sure that our parks are working and functional for all of us. Thanks, everybody.